Hi friends, this is Yoga Light. Having taught yoga for over 25 years full-time, I have found that when people tell me they do yoga, I have no idea what they mean. Usually this is because what they are doing and what I am doing are very different. Here we'll look at a very broad overview of the use of the physical practices of yoga. The four aims are longevity, athleticism, subtle development, and surrender. There are many different types of yoga. Some are named for the aspect of being that they are working with, such as Jnana Yoga for knowledge and Bhakti Yoga for devotion. Others are named for their lineage or a key term. Hatha Yoga is a physical practice that includes postures and is focused on using the body. But many types of yoga styles and lineages use the physical aspects of yoga. They may use it for different purposes. For instance, it may be support for meditation, or it may be for health. The four categories are not exclusive or even very rigid. In this video, Hatha Yoga broadly refers to the use of the body. What is it that people are trying to accomplish with physical practices? Is it the primary technique or something used to complement another part of their practice? We want all four aims in our practice. Why someone needs something in their life is a difficult question. We might not know someone's personal story and rarely know their spiritual development needs. It involves their karma, the world conditions, and what they need to do and undergo for further progress in this lifetime. So the aims of practice shouldn't be confused with their value. Each body is different. Don't just study the effects of different kinds of exercise, study the person. With the four aims, longevity aims to maintain or restore health. Athleticism aims to develop the powers of the physical body. Subtle development uses subtle energy to transform the self. Surrender aims for a direct relation to the divine in the personal or impersonal sense, or both, by surrender and aspiration. To me, yoga awakens energy, which is directed towards expanded awareness. You can also say deeper or higher consciousness, or you are using energy to transform consciousness. So for me, my main aim is rooted in the subtle. Another important question is your ultimate understanding of yourself and the universe and the metaphysical description you have. It is this understanding that is often an invaluable guide to practice. Using the physical is one means of yoga. There are many: heart, mind, motivation, etc. They are not exclusive, but physical work is not an afterthought of spiritual endeavor. Physical consciousness is an integrated aspect of the evolution of nature of the universe, of consciousness, and it is progressing. The divine is present in the physical. Not everyone who practices yoga is aware of this at all. Some philosophies reject this. However, the most basic idea is what you do physically affects your emotions and thoughts. And this can go deeper or higher into states of awareness and ways of being beyond the ordinary. There is a synergy of the physical and the other layers of being, our emotions and thoughts, and the higher regions of light, bliss, and truth. Some are aware and are able to open to this greater potential. They can use the hidden possibilities as a means for spiritual development. Some are not able to do this. But even someone whose only goal is simply good health will have some notion of their stress emotions and seek knowledge about what to do and how to live. The four aims will be presented with this in mind. There is a problem with longevity and athleticism which relate to what we call yoga. If we are pursuing the ancient philosophy, then it is a spiritual endeavor of the highest aim. But many people are unaware of this, or find it vague, or think it is about belief. So we have the problem of a lack of recognition of what yoga really is. It is good to remember that people start yoga for a wide variety of reasons, such as their friend dragging them to a class. This doesn't mean that they won't, over time, come to realize their own and yoga's potential. This is important in three ways. 1. A lack of knowledge hampers practice. 2. People can cause experiences that they are not ready for. And 3. They think incorrectly they know what it is, which stands in the way of expanding with it. Generally, practice is always good just because you have created a practice habit. The first problem is of not knowing what yoga is. The aim of yoga is not something you necessarily learn. Even if you are brought up with it, it can be just an idea or belief without much connection. In the highest sense, yoga is something your own force of being brings forth into your world. You are awakened to yoga. It is easier to awaken in a supporting environment, including relationships, peaceful spaces, guided practices, and clear ideas. But there is no sure recipe for that awakening or making a spiritual connection. Doing yoga can awaken a need for something more. For many, it is undefined, vague, or outside of what you know, but you recognize it. Some know right away and have a clear vision of it. So I always look for teachers, never for students. I always look for people who bring out the teaching energy in me or them, so people who don't know what it is but are practicing can be awakened by it. If they only want health, that is good. If they push themselves to achieve a goal, that is good. Everyone benefits. The second problem is triggering experiences where someone doesn't have a foundation. It is not usually the surface story of the experience coming out of nowhere. The need for the experience probably guided them to the practice even without knowing why, even though they might have gotten more out of it had they had the proper foundation. It may have been needed to shake things up. An example would be doing long-duration headstands. I used to do over 30 minutes daily as a form of meditation. This leads to the vision of saints. This might be jarring, causing you to question what is real or even your sanity. You may not know that the practice was linked to the vision, but over time, the experience of visions of saints will bring new awareness and a greater understanding will come. Energy openings of all sorts brought on by yogic practices can cause rapid purification, bewilderment, painful truths, and changes. They can also cause non-ordinary states of peace and bliss, leading to new values, identities, and relationships. The third problem is people getting stuck in a limited idea. I had a friend who did a wide variety of occult practices in her Sunday school for her church. They did Qigong, Reiki, meditation, Ouija, tarot, a grand tour. The idea was to take the mystery out of it. Each practice was very superficial and presented to trivialize it. So she thought she knew what each of these things were and had done them. Yoga can be presented as fitness. Fitness is good, but there is more. Hatha yoga includes both breathing and meditation. People may have another agenda dealing with health concerns, and yoga fits in this agenda and is only viewed with that goal in mind. Longevity and athleticism are important to have. Longevity aims to be healthy or seek to heal a chronic condition, recover from an injury or illness, or reduce stress. To be healthy, you need to eat well and exercise. An included notion is you want to do things for your mental and emotional health, such as relaxation or meditation. This quest for longevity can be related to aging, as people look for something that they can handle and believe that they can do even as they age. The best exercise method is the one you do. Longevity has two aspects. One is healing, and the other is positive lifestyle. For healing, you are using yoga as therapy. In positive lifestyle, you are aiming to stay healthy via a combination of addressing the body, emotions, thoughts, and spirit. Spirit could mean what is personally meaningful to you without the metaphysical aspects. For instance, I had a student interested in yoga because her mother had done it all her life, and it was a way of connecting with her. Common concerns in healing and positive lifestyle include joints, strength, balance, flexibility, and diet. There are also Ayurvedic notions that mix in. In brief, Ayurveda is an ancient alternative health system. It shares some ideas with yoga, such as the gunas, which are the three modes of nature: inertia, action, and harmony. It is traditionally focused on keeping you healthy so you don't get sick. How do you live well? This differs from Western science-based medicine, which is more focused on healing you after you become sick. If you live before antibiotics, you must be healthy to avoid infections. Western medicine introduced antibiotics, greatly changing mortality rates as people survived infections. Let food be thy medicine, so Ayurveda has much to say about diet. This can be quite different from nutrition, which is often marketing-based. The two approaches overlap with prevention and health recovery. For instance, Western science introduced sanitation as a prevention and halved the infant mortality rates in some cities. Whole diseases such as smallpox have been eliminated. Many remedies for ailments involve lifestyle changes, herbs, and exercises in Ayurveda. Ayurveda can also look at other aspects such as emotional health and even aid subtle and spiritual aims. The two ways complement each other. It is good to note that Ayurveda can be rule-oriented with do's and don'ts. A practice such as breathing may cause dryness, so one is advised to give up that practice. But in yoga, one should do the practice and find ways to adapt and overcome. Ayurveda can tend to define one as something rather than emphasizing your power of change. For example, the fighter pilot school in the Air Force had a high washout rate. This was lowered, allowing them to keep good quality and expensive candidates when they implemented training designed to deal with confidence and decision making. Before that training, they assumed that you had the confidence or you didn't. Yoga should help you find and realize your potential, contrary to being defined externally. A balanced practice would see and have the tools you need to bring you into harmony and be able to make progress or awaken the ability to manifest the resources and opportunities you need. In yoga, teachers often focus on anatomy and practice physical therapy, massage, and other healing modalities, including subtle ones, with an eye to making it healing. To me, longevity and health are priceless, but are a side effect rather than the main aim. I expect it to keep me healthy. If you eat well and do physical labor with fresh air, you will likely live a long time. If you are doing yoga properly, it will provide you with longevity, and though we all need to adjust our lifestyle and take care of problems, for the most part, living well will keep you healthy. You do need a balanced practice. A balanced practice would consist of having some poses from each of the 7 posture groups in an order conducive to the proper energy flow. The energy flow, for example, deals not with pose and counterpose, which is a useful idea and concept, but how the energy is moved in the body and focused. A sequence may contain energy flows without the knowledge of the practitioner. Fitness yogas, or one that combine different types of exercise, often have no awareness or knowledge of this. They can still be good for you and healthy, but the subtle benefits won't emerge or are haphazard. Limited aims can also block the subtle benefits. We should question any yoga practice that produces consistent injuries. This most often happens because of lack of knowledge, people who may be good at poses but not good at teaching, lack of a balanced practice, unawareness of the differences between people's bodies and capacities. For instance, I knew of a woman who tried leading handstands as the first pose on the first day at a health club. This resulted in an injured wrist. And another person who became very fearful in an inverted balance and years later, with another much better teacher, still was emotionally blocked from attempting balanced inversions. Balances can affect the emotions more than other poses. Another teacher stood on people's legs and butterfly, hopped was the word used, without asking, and injured somebody's lower spine. It was so painful for another student that they swore they would never do yoga again. This type of thing shouldn't be going on. A common problem more often associated with athleticism involves overdoing it and trying to force poses like lotus, tearing up the knees, or by systems where the teaching style uses rigid alignments with constant criticism, no breathing or motions, and long sustains resulting in neck problems. You can find problems associated with particular schools or styles of yoga. The student is never taught to feel through the pose for proper weight distribution or how to move to engage properly. Some styles are unaware of emotions or states of consciousness, for instance, where people are publicly shamed for misalignments. I had a student who came from somebody who made her stand in the corner facing away from everyone because she didn't do the pose right. This produced lots of anger. Yoga should align the emotional body with effective states such as gratitude and compassion, or by bringing great clarity to the mind. There is always the risk and possibility of unknown underlying medical conditions, but health should be a product of the practice. Focusing most of your time on health concerns will limit your yoga, crowding out other aspects such as greater awareness. It can narrow the scope and reduce it to only health benefits, but it depends on your need, especially if you use it to heal some injury or illness. When the exposure to yoga is limited to only being an exercise, people don't seek within it. They assume they know what it is, further preventing them from going deeper. The longevity aim has 3 minor problems. One is that people can be defined by their weakness or injury, and they play a role based on it as an identity, so their practice is made to fit the injury. I had a student who came from another teacher that told them they were tight in the back of the legs. That was the image they had of themselves and how they approached yoga. Years later, even when they had gained a great range of flexibility, that was the image they had of themselves and how they approached yoga. Consider being sick and going to a specialist who cures you. You don't go back to the specialist unless your illness returns. The second problem is the mentalization of the body, treating it as a mental object. Excessive focus on the anatomy can take up all the bandwidth of awareness, so you don't see the changes in other areas of the being, the other layers of the consciousness. For instance, the release of trauma or awakening of greater insights. In the mentalization of the body, the idea goes before the experience or feeling. Everything gets reduced to your mental world of the body. This same problem happens when there is too much emphasis on external alignments and perfectionism. You need a balance between alignment and the experience of doing things. The adage about the destination versus the journey applies here. Postures and movements are about expressing inner states. Your body is not a car you ride in, occasionally taking the driver's seat. It is a spiritual expression from the same source as your higher aspects of self. It may fall away on death, but so do many aspects of your being. The divine dwells equally as and in the physical. It is all the layers of creation and beyond. It loves and supports all equally. You are individual, universally in all, and above all at the same time. This physical is not an afterthought. Too much mentalization and the inner expression and movements aren't trained. The mental setting of body parts to an alignment prevents the natural sense of balance and flow. Anatomy describes positions. Images give consciousness to movement. Soccer players do not train by standing in place, swinging the leg to a specific position 1,000 times. They train by throwing a ball between two resisting opponents. This develops spatial awareness, communicating with the other person's intent, balance, strength, and timing, all learned by working in the game's environment. Insights and corrections can be given based on the performance, but the experience is part of the teaching. Yoga, too, has an environment, an inner one, and needs to coordinate the physical with the energetic, emotional, mental, and even beyond to the higher consciousness. The will, the body's intuition, and the senses of the physical consciousness itself are lost when only mental ideas are valued. It is not just about a physical ideal of how you should look. There should be an awareness of the intermixing of emotions and intent. Anatomy is very useful, but we need a balance in practice. Self-observation is not just thinking. If your main criteria is a mental result, for instance, you aim to work a specific muscle group, do a specific number of repetitions and such, you will tend to focus on putting your time in. The experience is often lost, like running on a treadmill while watching the news. Part of the problem is this does work for some health goals, but other aims are lost. On one side, you will have a measurable outcome, but on the other, it can reduce it to only physical outcomes you can measure. This opens the door to all sorts of health ideas that may not be relevant. For heart disease, the idea is that you need a certain amount of aerobic activity. So you can find people who think they need to spend 40 minutes on a treadmill followed by yoga as a cool down. Their health is precious, but the yoga is being given a handicap. Things can get vaguely defined as stress. Rather than looking at the tension in the body, seeing the source of the tension in the body, which relates to the emotions, perspectives, and values in our sense of what is real, the story that we are in. It's the mind's relation to the world that creates the stress. Your body is reacting to what is being thought and felt in the mind. These layers all interact, and behind them are subtle energies and subliminal connections of the being. You want to see the mind-body system and gain self-knowledge. If you are working only on core strength, you may miss the purpose of moving the energy to the heart and its effect. A limited aim can lack awareness and narrow the results. For instance, you can find many people who, at some point in their life, realized they were unhappy and made a life change to do something more in line with their values and their truth. If yoga is being practiced properly, that truth and the awareness of needed changes will be revealed. We will look at this more in the subtle yoga. The third problem is mechanicalness. If your goal is health maintenance, you will repeat the same thing after a while without focusing on improving or going deeper into the other aspects. There is nothing wrong with somebody doing 12 sun salutations every morning to stay fit. It is a precious thing. It may be it achieves their goal, but one could develop. The notion of progress should be present. A fourth problem has to do with fake medical knowledge. Some of these have their origin in old ideas about health being expressed incorrectly in modern anatomical terms. For instance, claims that certain yoga poses cure disease. I would avoid any such claims or lists of poses and health benefits. It is better to think in terms of a complete and balanced practice and being able to live better rather than seeking it as an alternative cure. There are many health benefits gained when stress is dealt with. The actual science of this in terms of what is happening in the body, the endocrine system, and nervous system is not as simple as it is often presented. It is a common strategy to explain a medical condition such as diabetes and then claim yoga is the answer without making any causal connection to the explanation and the practice of yoga. Some traditional things may make sense for a condition such as diabetes, for instance avoiding certain foods, but these are hardly a replacement for science. False claims and hyperbole are on one side, especially health claims, but there are also restrictions designed to keep women from doing the practice. Fear in yoga is always suspect. Fear should be looked at. It should be looked on with suspicion to say that improper breathing or poses will cause certain diseases or conditions. Saggy breaths from certain breathing practices, for instance. There is no data for many of these claims and not enough problems to warrant being investigated by outside observers. There are certainly physical activities connected to problems over time, such as some grappling-based martial arts and arthritis in the hands. A balanced practice is safe, and it has been practiced from prehistory. Stress makes existing medical conditions worse. Yoga can be an invaluable aid to managing stress. Usually for beginners, I talk more about the health benefits and how the practice helps, point out how they feel by asking them, and then gradually add the other aims. The movement is to build a foundation and awareness of the physical and their state of being. Many things can be worked on during practice: self-awareness, checking in on how you feel, concentration as you focus on the body, being able to honor where you are on any given day. This can be lost if you have no space for that awareness. This happens because the attention is focused elsewhere, or the system is overly dependent on someone telling you what to do and correcting it. For good longevity, there should be an attitude of listening to your body and seeking to know yourself. For positive lifestyle, you need to cultivate a relationship with yourself. In Part 2, we will look at athleticism. In Part 3, subtle energy. And in Part 4, the aim of surrender. If you got something out of this video, please hit the like and subscribe. Till next time.